All right, all right. Hello, everyone, and now welcome to a game. This game is going to be between Starbuck and 120, taking place here on Autumn Leaves. Well, first of all, I want to say this is part of the new patch. Sorry for being away from the scene for so long. Well, it was only a week, but if you guys missed me, I'm back, and hopefully we'll get to discover the meta along you guys and see where the game is going. A lot of changes, particularly in the undead versus human matchup. This is a matchup I really wanted to see. Starbuck spawning as the yellow human on the bottom left-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, 120, one of the best undead players out of China, spawning as the blue undead on the top right. What has changed? Small things have changed, such as the range of healing on priests, right? So you may be wondering, like, okay, so the well, priests can heal a little bit further. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal was this. It often felt like the casters, the backline casters, had to be so close to the front line in order to be effective that they were constantly being targeted by Frost Nova, constantly being targeted by Crypt Fiend Focus Fire, that they didn't survive and they didn't last very long. The fact that they're casters, meaning that they have a very low hit points as well, well, they became more of a liability, and that's why we saw a lot of Knights and Flying Machines. That may continue to be the case. We are still trying to flesh out, and I'm still trying to predict what the meta is going to look like, as well. Units are going to be countered and constantly countered and then countered as well. We are looking at an Archmage coming in from Starbuck, so no big surprises there. Meanwhile, we are looking at a Dreadlord. All right, so Dreadlord first from 120, and then one other thing I do want to see is whether or not we see that new Orb of Slow coming across from Human. The Orb of Slow replacing that Orb of Fire. The Orb of Fire no longer part of the Arcane Vault arsenal, so healing is still going to be very effective against undead. I believe that Orb of Fire was originally made to help with the human versus undead matchup, as we see Claws of Attack +5 picked up by Starbuck. Meanwhile, we are looking at the Dreadlord here, opening things up with a sleep onto that Ogre Magi. And what that does, that sleep onto the Ogre Magi, it prevents him from bloodlusting all of his, well, partners there. And by preventing that bloodlust, you actually are able to clear out the creep camp much more quickly. The Forest Troll Berserkers don't deal nearly as much damage because they're not attacking as quickly either. Meanwhile, Starbuck gonna go ahead, go after this Forest Troll Berserker creep camp, take that down pretty fast, and then go after the Forest Troll Trappers as well. This is always one of those questions, oh, who's gonna get the last hit? All right, last hit right there. And now is the Dreadlord perhaps going to try and get a sleep. Skeletal minions now popping on up. We are going to look at Militia now coming around, and this could potentially be a problem for 120. 120 has to be careful. Are we going to get a couple of surrounds here on some of those skeletal minions? Just get some damage onto some of those units. Try to finish things off. 120 should be able to deny these attacks there. We're going to see one deny there. Well, I'm not seeing the exclamation mark on the deny. I don't know if they were actually denied or not, or if that particular interface isn't working right. It looked like it was denied. I'll have to keep a close eye on that as well. There's a sleep on the Starbucks Footman. Footman gonna fall asleep on the job and wake up and realize he's completely surrounded. And oh my gosh, Footman looked like he was about to make his way back out, as we see Carry-On Swarm as that second ability. Now that Carry-On Swarm is also a very powerful ability, allowing for the destruction of those flying machines. All right, Militia going to finish off this Forest Troll Trapper here. The expansion nearly done, and we can see that there's a Nerubian Tower already set up. 120 should be able to train up some additional Acolytes here, as we are looking at level 2, perhaps level 2 Water Elementals. Forest Troll Shadow Priest comes across, gets in some big damage, able to finish off that Water Elemental there. Meanwhile, 120's Forest Troll Berserker going to get taken down, and now we see the Dreadlord sitting at level 3. Level 2 Carry-On Swarm, and there's going to be a scroll of perhaps trying to break free here. Are we going to be able to break free? Archmage trying to break free from this little prison, and we're looking at the Scroll of Town Portal. 2 ghouls were taken out as the Archmage absorbed quite a bit of damage. Dreadlord now on the move once more. We can see an arcane vault, town hall trying to be built here. Archmage has to be very careful. A Dreadlord could easily use that moonstone that mana stone, and perhaps try and get some damage to stack onto that Archmage. And that could come as a bit of a surprise, as the Dreadlord already back up to 115 mana. That slight faster mana regeneration, a very big deal here. Meanwhile, a Nerubian tower is going to cause some slow problems as well if they try to put in that pressure. Forest Troll Shadow Priest also a little bit low on mana as well. We're going to look at a little bit of damage going back and forth. And this is turning out to be perhaps a long game, as both sides are setting up expansions and should be able to get their economic game going. Arcane Vault being built back at home here. Meanwhile, Archmage looking to finish off this Forest Troll High Priest does do exactly that. Archmage could be in trouble, though. He's going to try to get caught in the back corner here. Are we going to see? Yes, there's a Carrion Swarm. There goes a Footman. And now the Mana Stone is really, really causing problems, as all of these Footmen are going to be forced to retreat back. Are we going to see another a round of attacks here? The Dreadlord should be able to get off another Carrion Swarm. Looking at this strong army. All right, there's a scroll of a ritual dagger regeneration here, as the Sasquatch is going to end up getting surrounded. Archmage has no easy way of finishing things off there. There's another Carrion Swarm ripping on through. There goes another Footman, and 120 is absolutely playing a beautiful game. However, the Water Elementals were able to pick off a handful of additional units too. All right, this could potentially be a problem. That Forest Troll Shadow Priest able to retreat back. Another low hit point Ghoul down to 8 hit points. And are we going to see some more fighting get underway here? Another low hit point Ghoul trying to back away, as the Dreadlord now nearing level 4. All right, what is going on here? Archmage going to purposely back into a corner here and try to fight his way through. Archmage, well, this Forest Troll Shadow Priest trying to back away. There's a Carrion Swarm ripping on through. Mana Stone used again. There goes a Ghoul. That is denied once more. Archmage needs a little bit more mana. Is it going to work out well? Another Footman about to get taken down. There's level 4 now on the Dreadlord. Level 2 sleep is going to be possible, as we see Starbuck hiring up some mercenaries in order to spending that additional gold from that expansion. All right, so mercenary creep camp here. There is a laboratory here, so yes, this map is not perfectly symmetrical. One mercenary creep camp, one laboratory, and whether you're spawning on the north or the southern side actually gives you better exposure. So Starbuck here benefiting from being able to have this mercenary camp closer, having a way to spend his excess gold. Meanwhile, 120 sitting on 1,000 gold right now, waiting for that tech to tier 2 to be completed. Once that tech to tier 2 is completed, he'll find ways to spend all of that gold. He'll want to train up perhaps a Death Knight, perhaps a Lich. Also tech to tier 3, also get that Slaughterhouse. But we can see how slight differences in the map is making an impact on the game, as Starbuck now charges in with a whole bunch of bunch of creeps. Panda now going to join in on the battlefield as well. Are we going to see some damage? Panda coming across perhaps with a breath of fire can blow things over pretty easily. There's a little bit of damage there, as the Water Elemental trying to fight back. There goes another Ghoul. Units are still trying to retreat back here. A little bit of damage coming back and forth. Carrion Swarm or Dreadlord could be going after this Forest Troll Berserker again. And we're still looking at that Dreadlord backing away. Tech to tier 3 already underway here. No additional buildings as of yet. No arcane sanctum, as the Footmen are getting cleaned up here. 2 Spirit Towers. This is going to be very difficult to clean up. There is a beautiful timing on a Scroll of Healing to try and keep that Forest Troll Berserker alive. Forest Troll Berserker getting taken down, I believe, by the Spirit Towers. So no experience given, as the Dreadlord now down to 180 hit points, trying to back away. A couple more Acolytes could end up getting taken down here. We're going to see some damage. There goes another Acolyte again, as the Ogre Mauler has shut down much of the mining that is happening here. Meanwhile, Heroes off to the north trying to clean things up. There's that Dreadlord off to the side, 200 hit points. Are we going to see more Breath of Fire? Perhaps not. We need to see that Death Knight out here on the battlefield to get some healing. There's that Slaughterhouse. No tech to tier 3 yet, as additional Acolytes are still trying to be trained, as another Acolyte gets taken down here. All right, Breath of Fire, Dreadlord down to 116 hit points. He's going to try and retreat back. Death Knight could not get onto the battlefield soon enough, as there are multiple units that need to be healed up as well. All right, unsummoning one of the crypts, as the units are now looking to retreat back here. Tech to tier 3, nearly done by Starbuck. We're going to get in. What was that? That was an Altar of Kings. Canceling the Altar of Kings, going for triple racks. Starbuck is... I'm not exactly sure what Starbuck is going for here. Is he going to try and go mass knights and while training up the animal war training and also those sundering blades? That is the question now, as the Death Knight is now out here on the battlefield. Are we going to see a Death Coil onto that Dreadlord? Of course we are. The Death Knight just airmailing a bunch of heals, or I guess, yeah. Well, I guess express delivery a bunch of heals, not airmailing. He is hitting this target. But the Dreadlord gonna go ahead. There's another Breath of Fire again. There's a beautiful deny. Death Knight now gonna coming back over. There's gonna be that Death Coil once again. And damage is just trying to rack up here. Obsidian statues down to 181. All right, Panda purposely taking on some of those footmen. Water elementals could push back the other way. And the Panda is still just sitting at level 1 after all this time. Well, more beautiful denies by Starbuck again, as this low hit point water elemental down to 194 hit points, and the units do in fact retreat back. All right, scout farm here. It looks as though well, Starbuck is trying to find an opportunity to well, deny some creeping on 120, but with the Obsidian statues, the Death Knight, and those Crypt Fiends, that may be still a bit too much here. Panda, dangerously low on hit points, trying to go after this creep camp here, trying to rack up a little bit of damage, as the Death Knight is trying to earn some of that experience. Crypt Fiends, there's another Carrion Swarm, another low hit point footman, that's going to get denied as well. 45 supply compared to 57. 120 now with the supply lead. Meanwhile, Starbuck needing a lot more lumber in order to really keep pace here, as we are going into, well, the barracks are trying to train up knights, but not training up, not using all 3 barracks at the same time. All right, that is the problem. If you're gonna, well, there is that Orb of Slow, adds 5 bonus damage. And then well, yeah, we'll see if it's going to get transferred over. How does that work? There is that Orb of Slow trying to apply some of that damage, and you can see that slow effect right there. And that is something, I guess it cannot. Oh, there's a Breath of Fire. There goes one Panda now out here, and a beautiful Orb of Slow. There's a Carrion Swarm trying to rip through. No Staff of Sanctuary. No, the Staff of Sanctuary on the Archmage. Archmage should be Staff of Sanctuary that Knight, and yes, able to send it back in time. There's another Breath of Fire trying to go after that low hit point Crypt Fiend. A little bit of damage there. One more attack, but that Crypt Fiend able to back away. There's going to be a Carrion Swarm finishing off another Knight once more. All right, so that Archmage with that Orb of Slow has a chance to slow the target by 55% and the attack rate by 25% right there. I guess the big bonus is I don't believe that since it's an orb effect, it cannot be devoured by destroyers, or at least I don't think it can be devoured by destroyers. Now, and not being able to be devoured by destroyers is going to be a very big deal, as we're seeing some Holy Light right there. All right, Paladin taking a little bit of damage, going to be forced to wake up here. Is he going to wake up in time? All right, Knight taking quite a bit of damage again. Paladin now back out. There's another Holy Light. There's another, well, are we going to see a Staff of Sanctuary? Yes. Saving that Paladin, sending him back home. He's going to be able to regenerate some hit points and get back out onto the battlefield. All right. More attacks here. That slow proc doesn't seem to be procking often enough. Getting two... getting in a couple of attacks there, but the Crypt Fiend's still able to back away. There's that slow right there, and now trying to go after the target. There goes one Crypt Fiend. There's a Breath of Fire. Are we going to see another low hit point Knight get Frost Nova down? And really, the tempo and the pacing of this game, interesting. We still don't see all 3 barracks being used simultaneously, so that is the problem. Starbuck perhaps only needed dual racks, didn't need triple racks, and now trying to get some workshop units, workshops for those flying machines out onto the battlefield. Also, we do not see armor upgrades on for the flying machines and the knights yet. Interesting call here, as we do see Drunken Brawler for the Brewmaster. All right, cleaning things up here. We're going to see some more of those units get taken out. A second staff of Sanctuary. And, well, once human players have 3 staff of Sanctuaries with multiple knights, then it does become a bit of an issue, as every time you try to do damage, you're just constantly in a little bit of trouble there. All right, are we going to see a slow proc? Yeah, we see a slow proc onto one of the front obsidian statue. So both obsidian statues are going to end up being lost here. We're going to see some staff of Sanctuaries on a knight. No, wow, beautiful staff. Again, a couple of webs now bringing down those flying machines, as a couple of Crypt Fiends are coming in from behind. Are we going to see perhaps a little bit more damage again? That Crypt Fiend, well, it's pretty much just dodging all. It was dodging all of those slow procs over and over again. All right, so Archmage going to come back around, perhaps try and engage here. 61 supply compared to 71. And both sides are going to try and engage once more. Are we going to see a couple of webs here? There's the flying machines. And now Staff of Sanctuary may be needed on that knight. Does not get the Staff of Sanctuary in time. I believe the Panda's Staff of Sanctuary's cooldown wasn't completed yet, as we should be looking at the Granite Golem now getting cleaned up here. All right, there is a Water Elemental going to get summoned up here. The flying machines do have siege damage, so they should be able to take these down pretty quickly and easily. We're looking at the Granite Golem pounding the ground, and then trying to cause a little bit of Thunderclap, or the Boulder Fist there. And what's the name of that ability? Slam. All right, so Slam. Panda gets up to level 3. Devotion Aura on the Paladin. Kagar's Pipe of Insight, not the item that the Panda wanted, but important to deny that Kagar's Pipe of Insight from the opponent. If Undead gets a Kagar's Pipe of Insight, well, suddenly the Obsidian statues are able to maintain their mana, and also don't have to work as hard to give mana to the other undead heroes. So that is going to be a problem here. Both sides getting ready to engage again, nearly at the upper echelons of low upkeep. Knight's going to dive in, and here we go. Flying machines trying to take down some Nerubian towers quickly, as we can see Web now being brought down in. All right, so one Nerubian tower already down, 69 supply compared to 73. Mortar teams joining in on the battle. Crypt Fiends getting cleaned up here. Another Obsidian statue going to get taken out. And, well, Carrion Swarm whipping through. Damage and damage and damage. All right, Death Knight now trying to retreat back. There's more Breath of Fire's Holy Lights trying to save up some more units, but the Paladin only sitting at level 2 right now. We're going to see no Staff of Sanctuary there. There is triple Staff of Sanctuaries, but we haven't seen enough from Starbuck to really prevent all of that yet. All right, fighting under a couple of Spirit Towers, always tough here. Another Knight about to get taken down. He gets Staff of Sanctuary again, and still fighting their way through. Mortar teams are able to lob in a bunch of attacks here as the Archmage gets taken down. Archmage falls at level 5. No Scroll of Town Portal out now. This is going to be a problem as the Paladin down to 58 hit points. He levels up just in time as the units are trying to retreat back here. Are we going to see Breath of Fire, Holy Light, Panda down, Lich now down to 44 hit points. Invul Potion transferred back around as the units are trying to retreat. Wow, that Lich, dangerously low on hit points, ends up surviving. Archmage gets resurrected, but without any priest out on the battlefield, this is going to be difficult to heal back up easily. All right, perhaps a Staff of Sanctuaries to round robin to try and heal back up all of these units. Panda gonna come back around. Perhaps there's a Breath of Fire, but does not find this Obsidian statue. That Obsidian statue could have been blown over right there, as the Panda is going to be looking for that position again. Bunch of low hit point units. All right, we're going to see another Breath of Fire across all of this unit. There's another Breath of Fire. Does find that Obsidian statue in the back. And now Mortar teams are going to be lobbing in attacks again. Some more Holy Light here. Archmage drops a Water Elemental. And there's those Mortar teams. I'll say it again and again. We need to give Dwarven magic resistance to humans. Otherwise, the Mortar teams being biological siege units just makes it extremely easy for undead to deal with them, as they're vulnerable to both Frost Nova, Death Coil, and Death Coil. You saw how instantly those 3 supply units were taken down just because they're biological. Yeah, give Dwarven resistance. Come on, make it thematic, right? dwarves are supposed to be resistant to magic, so let that, get that into the game, right? Lore, it works. It works. My human bias is showing. I'm sorry. Human versus undead, trying to, has always been a problem matchup for me in the time that I've played. All right. 66 supply compared to 69. Gonna go ahead and try and engage here. Banshees out on the battlefield, but they do not have enough mana to possess yet. That's probably gonna be their next plan. All right, Holy Light. Are we gonna see a staff? Yes, we do. Beautiful staff at just the last moment. Ghoul is getting taken out again. Knight going up against some other units once more. Panda could turn back around. The Paladin needs a way to survive. What is he doing? He's joining in on that battle. Well, Divine Shield dodges that last bit of damage as the mortar teams are able to find the Banshees and actually get damage onto those units. All right, so Banshees dangerously low on hit points. Panda trying to come across with a Breath of Fire. Perhaps going to be able to Breath of Fire more of those Banshees again as the Panda gets up to level 4. All right, more engaging. There's another Staff of Sanctuary again. There's a Breath of Fire, but doesn't find the Banshees. Another Knight about to get taken down. There it goes, as the mortar teams are trying to figure out how to splash some damage onto those units. Panda still has plenty of mana. Sobi Mask coupled with level 3 Brilliance Aura has been doing wonders as another Banshee, 2 Banshees quickly taken down. Brewmaster still only sitting at level 4, though. Going to be quite some time before they get to level 5 as the mortar teams are looking to find ways to take down that haunted gold mine. There goes another Crypt Fiend. Holy Light saving the Archmage here as the mortar teams, well, not able to do enough to figure out how to handle that haunted gold mine. Carrion Swarm coupled with more spell damage, finishing off that Paladin right there as he falls at level 3. Archmage down to 245 hit points, going to be forced to retreat back. And, well, is this mortar team going to teleport with the rest of the group? No, it is not. They need to retreat back here. Fly machines, all these units need to retreat back. Paladin resurrected, retreat back home as there's a Staff of Sanctuary there. All right. Back and forth fighting between these two armies. Main gold mines have been mined out, so players may want to set up that east-west gold mine here, and in order to continue the battle. 68 supply compared to 49. Starbuck, while holding on, 543 going up against 544. Heroes all resurrected. Militia now being called out. Paladin with Clarity Potion, plenty of mana. Brewmaster really needs to find a way to get to level 5. And without a Stormbolt, right, and without that Orb of Slow proccing often enough, it doesn't seem to be really working. All right, in comes the Militia. Militia are getting called over. This could potentially be really bad. Their Banshees could end up getting taken down. Are we going to see some splash damage? There goes a Banshee down. 49 supply compared to 68 right now as the Militia are trying to take down and stop all of the mining here at the expansion. More repairs underway. 138 gold, and that's all 120 really has left as the Acolytes are going to get cleaned up here. All right, Mortar Team trying to finish things off. 23 minutes into this game, are the undead heroes going to be able to, well, do enough lasting damage? All of these peasants are pretty much free experience for that Carrion Swarm as the mortar teams are trying to finish things off here. All right, Fly Machines engaging against the Destroyers. Death Knight now trying to retreat back. Death Knight could get taken down. No, he scrolls of Town Portal away as he's able to get back. Fly Machines continuing to battle it up here. All right. We're looking at another Spirit Tower about to get taken out. Archmage taking a little bit of poke damage. Panda trying to push back the other way again. Are we going to see a Breath of Fire? We are. That removes the anti-magic shell. And now the Paladin could have Holy Lighted that Death Knight. No, anti-magic shell back again. Both sides still fighting their way through. Carrion Swarm ripping through. Staff of Sanctuary. Panda continuing to fight, and that anti-magic shell working wonders as we see another Staff of Sanctuary, triple Staff of Sanctuary, really doing quite an effective job as we're looking at another Knight being able to be backed out. Starbuck has been constantly saving these Knights, sending them back home, and then they're just able to come back and live and fight another day. Flying Machines trying to make their way over, preventing that Destroyer from doing anything as we're looking at, well, the Lich coming back around. Carrion Swarm not available, and now we're looking at, well, there goes the Dreadlord. With the Dreadlord gone, that is gonna be the game. A beautiful game going back and forth here. But Starbuck outlasting 120. All right, so you saw the Archmage get up to level 6. Well, not gaining any additional experience here now, but a beautiful game fought valiantly by 120. But do you think this Orb of Slow had a big impact? You didn't see any of the casters, but the nerf on the anti-magic shell not providing nearly as much magic shell or magic damage prevention. That was very noticeable. The anti-magic shell didn't just seemingly last forever and a day. You were actually able to remove them with Breath of Fire, and it constantly had to be recast. Let me know what you guys thought about this game in the comments below. Here are the final scores. Starbuck outscoring in all 3 categories and just playing a great game.